The train station was thick with heat and noise, the air heavy with the smell of coal smoke and iron. Steam hissed from the great black engine, curling around the legs of hurried travelers until it looked as though the whole platform were floating in a low, restless fog. Porters shouted over one another, trunks slammed onto trolleys, and somewhere, a brass clock chimed the hour. As each stood near the ticket counter, her back straight but her shoulders tight beneath a cream-colored summer coat. A white brimmed had cast a shadow over most of her face, but it couldn't hide the way her eyes kept fleeting toward the far end of the station. Two, trimming in crisp sights lingered near a column, pretending to be engaged in quiet conversation. Their shoes were polished, their posture easy, but the way one of them kept glancing in her direction carried an unspoken warning. Her gloved hands clutched a scuffed leather satchel as if it were the only anchor keeping her from slipping away into the chaos. As each shifted her weight, glanced around, and then her gaze caught on him. He was leaning against a stone pillar a few yards away, the brim of his hat low, a folded newspaper in his hands. His skin was deep bronze under the summer light, and his stance was calm but watchful, the kind of stillness that Said had learned long ago how to be both visible and invisible in a crowd that didn't always welcome him. People passed by driving him toss quick, assessing looks he knew too well, some worried, some dismissive, a few openly hostile. As each moved toward him quickly, the sound of her footsteps almost lost in the din. When SH was close enough that the steam from the train brushed past both their faces, SH spoke, her voice thin but urgent. "Sir, can you pretend to be my husband, just for one day?" The newspaper lowered inch by inch, revealing sharp eyes that studied her in silence. He took in the pale strain of her face, the nervous flick of her gaze back toward the man inside us, the way her lips pressed tight as if holding back the rest of the play. Somewhere behind her, the station whistle shrieked. Whatever SH was running from wasn't far behind, and it had already noticed her. They sat across us from each other in the first-class carriage, the kind lined with polished wood panels and green velvet seats that smelled faintly of tobacco and dust. Outside, the late summer fields rolled by in a blur of gold, their tall grasses bowing in the wind. Inside, the air was heavy with the low murmur of other passengers and the occasional jolt of the train as it hit a rough section of track. As she kept her back straight, her gloved hands folded neatly in her lap as if posture alone could hold her together. Every so often, her eyes darted toward the glass door at the end of the carriage, checking who passed by. Across us from her, he sat with his shoulders relaxed but his gaze sharp, as to the calm was something he carried like armor. His hat rested beside him on the seat, revealing close cropped hair and the strong lines of his jaw. When SH finally spoke, her voice was barely above the hum of the wheels on the rails. "There is an inheritance," SH began, eyes fixed on the passing fields. "And a cousin who believes it should be his. He doesn't take no well." SH paused, her throat working as if SH were deciding how much trot to jive. If he sees him traveling alone, SH let the rest of the tact hang in the air, sharp and unfinished. He didn't press her for details. Instead, he leaned back, studying her like a man reading a map, noting the faint tremor in her hands and the way her lips pressed together after each sentence. The less he knew, the safer they both might be, but still, part of him wanted to know everything. When the train porter passed through to collect tickets, SH reached for his arm without looking, her fingers curling lightly over his sleeve. The gesture was natural, intimate, practiced in a way that made onlookers accept the picture instantly, a young wife traveling with her husband. But her grip was firmer than it needed to be, and he could feel the quick, nervous beat of her pulse against his arm. Some passengers looked at them with polite curiosity, others with sidelong glances waited with quiet judgment. The pairing wasn't common, and both of them knew the eyes that lingered a little too long. Still, SH kept her hold on him whenever they walked the length of the train, as to the contact was a shield. He didn't know we had agreed so quickly back at the station. Maybe it was the desperation in her voice. Maybe it was the way SHE had looked at him as though he might be the only safe harbor in a storm SHE couldn't outrun. Or maybe it was because something about her fear felt like a story he had heard before, only this time, he had the chance to change the ending. By the time the sun began to dip, the train had slowed to a crawl, its wheels grinding over the last stretch of track toward a small, unfamiliar station. The platform ahead was little more than a strip of wooden planks, with a bench, a telegraph office, and a single lantern swaying gently in the evening breeze. The day's heat was fading, replaced by a chill that clung to the air. As she stepped down first, her satchel pulled tight against her body. Her eyes moved quickly over the crowd. If it could be called a crowd, searching faces, scanning for someone only SHE would recognize. The gold light of the setting sun caught on the edge of her hat brim, throwing her features into half shadow. SHE looked both expectant and afraid, as to relief and danger could arrive on the same breath. He followed, lifting her small sidecase with one hand as easily as if it were empty. For a moment they stood side by side, the hisses of the train behind them and the creak of the platform underfoot. Neither spoke. Around them, passengers reunited with loved ones, embraced, lied, or hurried off with purpose. Finally, SHE turned to him. Her voice was quieter than it had been on the train, but it carried a weight that rooted him to the spot. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you'd said no. He nodded honest, setting the sidecase at her feet. Doesn't matter now. His voice was steady, but there was something in his eyes, an acknowledgement of the unspoken, of the danger still breathing somewhere just beyond their sight. For a heartbeat longer, SHE lingered, as though wanting to say more, but then her lips curved into the faintest smile. It was a small, teary thing, but it reached her eyes, softening them for the first time all day. SHE turned and walked away, her figure disappearing into the scattering of people and the warm haze of dusk. He stayed where he was, watching until SHE was gone. The train let out a final, low whistle behind him, and he realized that in the span of a single day, they had shared a trust that most people never dared to drive. Two strangers, bound together by nothing but circumstances, and yet, for those fleeting hours, the bond had been real enough to protect them both.